I'm going to be making a spinach, chicken and mushroom puff pastry tart. It's very quick and simple to make with a very few ingredients. You will need a ready rolled Jus Rol puff pastry sheet, some pasta style tomato sauce with a good hint of chilli, a fair sized chicken breast with the skin removed, a little chilli oil or ordinary olive oil with perhaps a little fresh chilli chopped into it, some chestnut mushrooms which give the best taste and colour, or some ordinary white button mushrooms, a few fresh spring onions, a good handful of fresh spinach leaves, and finally beaten whole egg to glaze the pastry just before you bake it. First of all then, unroll the puff pastry sheet onto a lined baking tin. Now I'm using the lined baking tin so that should any of the ingredients boil out during the cooking, then it won't stick to the tin, so it make it much easier to remove the whole tart from the tin at the end of the baking time. So now I'm going to spread a little tomato and chilli pasta-based sauce onto the centre. Now you can use, if you prefer, a tomato and chilli chutney, and obviously if you like things fairly hot, then the more chilli there is in your original sauce, the better. It just adds just a slight piquancy to the overall taste. So that's all we need to do there. And now take a fair-sized chicken breast, which is trimmed and no skin, of course, and just cut this into small strips, such as you would if you were going to be doing a stir fry, because we're not cooking the chicken before we put it onto the puff pastry base. By cutting it this thin, it will cook very well during the cooking time. So having got that, now this is where we add just a little touch. This is just a little bit of chili oil in here, and if you don't have chili oil, then you can use some chopped fresh chilli or a few chilli flakes perhaps in ordinary olive oil. So just toss the chicken very lightly in the chilli oil and then scatter that over the top of the pastry sheet. Again, making sure that wherever you put it out in an even layer, but that you leave a good border all the way round. There we are. The important thing when making this is that you don't pile the ingredients all up very deep in the centre and have it rather sparse around the edges. Two reasons for that. First of all, to make sure that everybody, when they get a piece of this, has an even amount of the ingredients, and if it's very deep in the centre, then it won't cook thoroughly through. 2 or 3 good-sized spring onions. Take off the tops and then cut those again on the diagonals, such as you would if you were going to use them in a stir fry. And use some of the nice green part because that gives lovely colour to the finished dish. Haven't been so. And again, scatter those over. And then the final ingredient at this stage are a few chestnut or ordinary button mushrooms. I've used chestnut mushrooms because they look rather more attractive once they're baked, and also they do have a little bit more of a flavour. However, you can, if you prefer, use ordinary white button mushrooms. I've wiped them, but I haven't taken the skins off because that's where all the goodness and the flavour is. And again, I'm just going to use up the rest of that chilli oil, because if you place these on the top, which you can do without the oil, they will bake off and still taste very good. However, they will be just slightly dried and matte to the surface, so it is much better to give them just a little glisten, and also it uses up what was left of the chilli oil. Covering. And now that's almost ready to put into the oven, apart from one final little touch, which is to whiz round the borders here with a little beaten egg. This gives the pastry a very nice deep golden colour once it's baked, and also a nice sheen. However, if you prefer not to use beaten egg, you can use a little bit of milk, or you can just forget about it altogether. It will still cook, of course, it will still become golden, but it won't have quite the sheen. So there we are, that is now ready to go into the oven. And here's the chicken, spring onion, mushroom and spinach tart ready baked. And it's at this point you scatter over with the ready wilted spinach. This gives it a nice colour and a little bit more flavour.